Hey there, good day, everybody. And I'm saying good day because we have friends all over the world. It's the morning here in Boulder, and I think Barnet Bain is with me. I'm going to give him a proper introduction in a moment, but it's even an hour earlier there. Barnet, hey, thanks for being with us here today.
Oh, I'm so delighted that you invited me. So it's always a shock when you get invited back.
Oh man, we are so excited about this next hour. All of you viewers, so you guys that are here with us in the green room, Humanity Stream members, I can see you on screen, so I'm going to wave at you. A few of you are on camera, a lot of you off camera. Thanks for being here. It makes it fun to have a live audience, so thank you all for joining with us. Also, just Barnet's friends out there in the world, Barnet Bain's friends, Humanity's team partners, friends, colleagues that are all over the world, and John Raymer and the Sign Network that's broadcasting out to all of its Facebook pages. So, hey, big shout out to you all. Thanks for being here. Barnet Bain, I'm gonna introduce him properly in a minute, but movies like What Dreams May Come, Robin Williams. God, if you remember that movie, I was just sharing in the green room with Barnet. I haven't seen a more creative movie in my whole life, and you're looking at the man that was instrumental in putting that whole thing out in the world. Amazing. So we're gonna, and there's so many things that Barnet is expert in. So wow, are we going to have fun as we dive into a deep conversation with him? So with my welcome, I also want to invite you all to share comments. So if you're there in the green room, you can even put up your hand. You can come on camera with us in the second half hour. If you're out on social media, just put in the chat questions that you want to bring to Barnet. We'll try and get them to him here during the hour. So our theme today is creative mastery. And we're going to talk, of course, about elevated consciousness. There's an intersection here. So we're going to have fun with that. So Barnet Bain is a filmmaker, author, and educator whose credits include Milton's Secret and Oscar award-winning What Dreams May Come. Through his creativity workshops, Barnet guides people of all ages and walks of life to expand their vision of what is possible and develop their gifts and talents with passion. He is a faculty member of Columbia University, Spirituality Mind Body Institute, and Echelon Institute, and is the author of the Book of Doing and Being, Rediscovering Creativity in Life, Love, and Work. And this is kind of just a rearview mirror thing. There's a lot of really cool stuff he's working on right now. We're gonna get to that during the hour. So welcome again to the program, Barnet, and wow, really good to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to see you on the Zoom, and a pleasure to be with you all.
So let's, as we jump in, one of the things that I shared, you'll remember back to right around 2017, we were talking, and you were saying, "Hey, Steve, we're entering the age of consciousness." And of course, here in Humanities Team, wow, we're all about elevating consciousness. Our Humanity Stream Plus conscious streaming platform, which now we're translating into over 75 languages as we go out with programs. Woo! Big bow to our programming staff for helping to pull that off, and all the volunteers that are stepping forward to help as well. Because we believe that elevating consciousness is what it's all about here in today's world. If we're going to live a delicious life and create this sustainable and flourishing planet. But I know you've got a whole take on what this is, this age of consciousness. So yeah, share with us your wisdom, if you would, Barnet.
I'm going to try and make this really short because I can go on this subject. But there was a time many years ago when power and wealth and agency in the world, it was vested in landowners. There were serfs and there were aristocrats, and then that power, it moved to and there was the time of the Industrial Revolution, to the making of things and the exploitation of labor. And from then, this kind of phase shift, this paradigm shift, it moved again. And it moved to, I'll jump through a few phases. It went up to, let's say, the information technology, the first Wall Street and finance, and then it went to the age of information. We're no longer in the age of information. Your information is ubiquitous. We're now in the in an age, I believe we're in an age of expanding consciousness. And those that have developed themselves so that their levels of consciousness, we can only be as creative as our level of conscious awareness. We can only be as loving, likewise, as our level of self-love. So the more that we turn on those lights, the more agency we have in the world and the more power we have in the world. I don't mean power over. I mean agency, power to bend, if not the course of events, but to bend our response to events in ways that are kinder. And so this has been pointed to for eons, and we were talking, Steve and I were talking before we began a little bit about, well, what are some of the symptoms of this new time? And Steve pointed to events that were happening in science and in physics, all pointing to a superseding awareness beyond our egoic awareness. And to me, what that's pointing to is the increasing awareness that we are not only living as selves in a world, but similar to what happens at night when you're in a dream state, you are living in your little body and you're moving through events. And when you wake up in the morning, you realize I was that little body and I was also every single other person and event in my dream. The same thing applies in life. And so we begin to flower into an awareness that we are both separate and connected to all things, always. And the implications of that, the creativity that births in terms of how we respond to other people, to other circumstances, how we respond to ourselves, when we have an inkling that I am both this small self and everything that's going on is also myself. It's aspects of myself that I am not in touch with, but I can begin to have a relationship with. Immediately, a new sense of tolerance and compassion begins to take root. And it doesn't mean that we no longer have boundaries and we no longer have lines about what we will or will not put up with, but we have a different sense of who and what every other thing, person, experience is. And that is something that is brand new on the planet. Now, the idea of this is ancient, but the ubiquity of it and the spread of it into, as it begins to take root in the mass consciousness in all these different ways, that is very new.
Yeah, the whole embodiment, expression, living into it. Like you say, the mystical teachings that share this, my God, these things go back, to antiquity. But these were just, the few that were out in the world that had this kind of imagination and expression. And now, wow, when you talk about age of consciousness, we're really, now we're coming into it. We're all coming into it together. And so let's talk about, you actually begin to bring in this whole creative aspect as you were talking about the age of consciousness. So the creative aspect, this intersection in terms of what's happening now that's new and that's exciting as we're in this age of consciousness, where does creativity come in? What are you seeing and feeling into there, Barnet?
Well, creativity is the only thing that is happening. And it's kind of like asking a fish, where does water come in? Um, there's only creativity. Creativity is love's work. It is both the expression of and the vehicle of what it is to experience self. So if we think of it in terms of being lucid in our dreams at night, and being lucid in our daydreams, lucid living, lucid dreaming, once we realize as we're dreaming at night that once we're aware that we're dreaming, the quality of the dream takes on a whole different color. It's not less fun. It's a different kind of fun. And the exploration and the discovery and the adventure of that kind of fun is what creativity is all about. It's an exploration. And so I'm interested in, well, how do we fire that up? How do we fire up becoming more and more lucid in our living? And there are some techniques that I found really useful. One is I've realized that the secrets of a creative life, of living an artful life, of living a life that is more and more conscious. I realized there are three ingredients that I've been playing with for many years. One is my desires, and one is my expectations, and then my imagination. Again, whether I'm asleep and fortunate enough to be lucid in a night dream, but then I realize, well, what are my desires in that? What are my expectations? This is all my imagination. How far can I extend my imagination? What are the horizons of my imaginative capacity? And so we work on these these ingredients for creative living. We work on them with tools, the way a painter works with a brush and paint. And the paintbrush, the tools are becoming conscious of what my thoughts are, becoming conscious of what my feelings are, and what my choices are, and why I'm making them, and what part of me is making them. Again, if I'm in a night dream and I'm everybody in the dream, I realize, if I'm lucid, is an aspect of me. Why am I making certain choices, and what part of me is making those choices? So there's thoughts, and there's the feelings, and the choices, and the decisions that I make, and the attitudes that I have. And the dream bends certain ways. I don't have total agency about it. This is sort of a little bit of a beef I have with many of my friends who are teachers and quite well known in the humanity team circles and beyond. Many of whom teach you, well, you are completely creating your reality, and well, that's certainly true, but most of it is not conscious, and so I don't have the agency to direct everything about how my dream is unfolding, but I can bend it. I can bend it in positive ways, in ways that are enjoyable to me, and with the increasing awareness of who I really am in relationship to everyone else. It's my intention that I want that dream to be beneficial to everyone, to all the other aspects. So that is just the developing of that is a big key. It's a big component to living a creative life and to having a sense of why it matters. And
Yeah.
does matter because, it doesn't like end at the end of life. It doesn't end, the dreaming reality doesn't end when you wake up in the morning. You're who you are, and that menu of energies and thought and belief and choice and decision, it goes with you all day and through all the other different states, and the next night it's back. So it doesn't end. It doesn't end at the end of life. I've long been curious about exploring what those possibilities are, imagining what those possibilities are, going all the way back to work in the movies. What dreams may come is another way of sharing some of that interest and exploration. Not that I come to any conclusions, and I think it's important that in a creative life, it's not about coming to a conclusion or figuring anything out. It's about expanding our ability to imagine. It's about pushing back the boundaries of our capability to imagine more and more. If I can imagine what it's like to have more love, I can receive more love, I can give more love. So it's always about enhancing our capacities to imagine. And then, well, why? Our lives, our daily lives, they're so influenced from the time we're a child that we have certain disappointments. When we are raised in a world, in a false story, where we think we're subjects in a world that is happening to us, and we have that experience. We have so many disappointments and hurts. There are beautiful things as well. That's true, but our brains, our neural patterns, we just become habituated to experiencing or defending against hurt. And so it is easier for us to imagine disappointment and hurt and blockage. And we will dream into creation what we have the most energy to. So what we fear the most, or what we excites us the most, that is what gets most of our three ingredients: our desire, our expectation, and our imagination. And so to live a bigger and bigger imaginative life inside the dream requires going to the gym, developing that imaginative muscle. Anyway.
Wow. So, yeah, what a beautiful journey,
I'm turning all
this
over the
picture
place
that
here.
you're painting. I mean, I love where it started. It's like asking a fish, what is water? So, I mean, imagination, you're opening up the aperture to the fullness of life, because everything, of course, everything is creative. What is uncreative about life, especially when the way where you're inviting people to, let's fire it up. Let's take it all the way up into the fullness of what it can be. I love that too. I'll bring in a quote, Barnet, from Conversations with God that you'll love. It says, "You kill imagination and you kill God." I mean, isn't that interesting? That's right in the Conversations with God book.
It's one thing.
Yeah, it's one thing. Right. So life is a creative, imaginative journey. What do you imagine? That's our reality. That's what we live into.
Life is an imagined experience. We're experiencers.
Yeah.
Life itself is an imagined experience. At night, when you have a dream and you wake up, you realize that was all an imagined experience. And, it is possible. I can't speak with any authority, but it is very possible, perhaps likely, that after life as we know it, that is also an imagined experience. And so much of the life I have led to date in the 70 years that I've been alive, so much of the life when I look back on it feels imagined. How could that
Yeah.
possibly have happened, I think? It feels imagined. And that is most likely closer to the truth of things. And I
So
look back on my 70 years, and so many things are so improbable. And some things are downright implausible. That couldn't possibly have happened because I can think of two, three things that in my account of it happened at the same time. And I know we all have that experience, particularly people of my vintage. And this is not a cognitive decline. This is an upgrade. We come to a certain
yeah, plateau where
we
you
found
just
a certain corner on in the stages of a life, in the soul stages of any dream. And I hold that this is a dream experience. We do in the same way that it's developmental, in the same way that a rose in your garden, it begins as a bulb and then a stem shoots up and then flowers and then a calyx, and then the calyx opens and then there's a blossom, and the blossom doesn't know it's the bulb and the leaves don't know it's the stem. They don't. But all of these things happen in a state that is orderly. And in a human life, there is likewise a developmental order, and part of the order is at a certain point after something that is called in the literature the time of the double. It was identified by Jung, where some people call that a midlife crisis, and you endeavor to go back to the way it was. And those of us that are blessed and courageous go forward into the unknown, not trying to redo what was because it's familiar, but to go forward. And then the next step after that is an awareness. It's an embracing of this blurring of memory, of this blurring of logic. And we no longer are breaking the dreaming into discrete bits of logic and reason. And we begin to develop a relationship with fusion, with not confusion, with letting it all be a mix, letting it all be mysterious, letting it all be a dreamy. And if we give ourselves license to do that, there's again so much room to play with elements of creativity, to play with my desires and my expectations and my imagination.
beautiful. Let me come in here because I got so many things I want to get to. So for people that aren't aware, Barnet created a free program called Accessing Your Super Creativity. We're going to go look at a clip here from that right now. And then he created a masterclass after that called Creative Mastery. These were both programs created with James Twyman, who's a good friend of Barnet's and who's also a really creative guy. So, okay, we're going to go look at this video clip from Accessing Your Super Creativity. Just a lot of wisdom in this. So watch this. It's just a little more than 2 minutes, and then Barnet and I are going to come back and talk about it. Here we go.
When I say I want to create, what I'm really saying is I want to change the world somehow, or beautify it, or bring something to it, or control it. Yeah, control too. That's the other side of it. So it's important to me to know where I'm coming from. I want to know the why of what I'm about. That's an important function of creativity at the center of my spirituality. because some unintended consequences happen when I don't look for the why. My creativity becomes hand-me-down. I rely on or I react to conventional wisdom about things, and my personal imagination shrinks. I lose a part of myself. It is not intuitive. I am doing the best that I can. I'm developing a practice of staying in the journey with an awareness of how much of my response to the journey is from the past. That's a big piece. When it's the past, I'm not creating, I'm recreating. And sometimes that's fine. And sometimes it's unhelpful. And in the living of life, sometimes it's not productive or constructive. So I want to open my awareness so that I have more dominion over whether I'm meeting each new moment innocently, or whether I am bringing baggage or interpretations or old feelings and old thoughts that are not about now, but that's something in the moment that is similar, remotely similar sometimes, or the same, or familiar, somehow triggers the memory banks. And I respond to that from the past, almost always unconsciously. So I want to pump out the reservoir of that and make the what is previously automatic, I want it to become more and more conscious so that I can make choices that are fresh and innovative, and I can meet the moment in the moment.
Wow, creative. I love that. I mean, I love that. It's not the kind of thing that I would be thinking about most days. There's a lot I'm excited about, but in this context that you bring in of just meeting the moment in the moment and really making sure that we're creating these new pathways of expansion or liberated from these confining ideas of the past. Different words we might put around this, but I love it. It's not the kind of thing I think about most days as I'm focusing. By the way, I want to, before Barnet responds, so it's called Accessing Your Super Creativity. Maybe we can put the URL on the screen. I want to invite viewers. It's a free program with James Twyman. I'm the host. Invite you to sign up and go through this free program, Accessing Your Super Creativity. And then all of you in the green room here are Humanity Stream Plus members. So the Masterclass then is called Creative Mastery. And what a gem. Just invite you, if you're part of the Humanity Stream Plus community, wow, be sure to go through this program. It just turns lights on to this whole part of life that I'm guessing I'm not the only one, when I say, I just don't really think this way. It's not that I'm not creative, but I don't think in terms of, I want to detach from the past and what's the whole new light that comes on today and in the future, as I'm working on things. So do you want to, I know you've been putting words around this, Barnet, since we started this program, but does that little video clip give you anything that you want to comment on?
I'm itching to jump in here. So, it's important for us to define what consciousness is. Let me reframe that. It's important for us to direct our compass heading towards what consciousness is. And in order to be open to a subject as monumental as that, we have to become aware of certain kinds of triggers that pull us away from that. And one is this notion of the past, that the past is real. In terms of consciousness, the past is it's a beat in the movie. When you are asleep in your dream state, the timeline gets all shaken up, things in the past. It feels like you spend 3 weeks in the dream, you wake up and it was a 10-minute nap. So the past is something that happens in consciousness. It is not laid in stone. It is an invention that happens in consciousness, and we live inside it. We live inside that story. Not every mystic lives inside that story. Our bodies live inside that story. But our mind and our spirit does not live inside that story. It supersedes that story, and it has a little dream adventure where it identifies with the body and it identifies with time tracks. But again, when you're dreaming at night and you wake up, all the past stuff that was in the dream, it's all gone. So we want to focus, to adjust our compass so that we are more attuned while we are alive and in the body to what is more real. What is more real is an experience of the present moment. We've all heard this before now. It's a cliche, but I want to tug at it, scratch it a little bit more. What is it that prevents me from having an abiding experience of the present moment? First of all, why do I want to be in the present moment? Because when I'm in the present moment, I am experiencing a dream coming at me that I am a player in, and it's fun. And I have an opportunity to be a benign, beneficial presence to all the other. Again, this is very different than not knowing that I am non-dual, that not knowing that I'm the whole thing. I don't have to know it perfectly, but when I know an inkling, if I'm present, then I am the experiencer. Now, what keeps me from being present? Well, anything that comes along the pike of the dreaming, whether it's a night dream or in my daily life, that is the same or similar or familiar to anything that has happened in my past, mostly things that are unpleasant, but even sometimes things that are exciting and thrilling. That is all stored in my subconscious. The first outpost of your subconscious is your body. It holds everything. It holds every memory. It doesn't hold it as memory. It holds it as a trigger, like a signal. So anything that is the same or similar or familiar is going to trigger something that starts in the body and moves through the energy system, and pretty soon calls up something from the logic and reason file, the cognitive file, and boom, I am now reacting, having feelings or thoughts that are not about now, but that are old thoughts and old feelings and not about now. And I'm making decisions and I'm having emotions that I am layering on to a present experience, and I am caught in a loop. Now, in the East, they call that karma. That is what karma really is. Here, I don't know what we call it here. I call it really a pain in the butt is what I call it. But
Right.
we want to experience more and more of the present moment. And in order to do that, we become more and more aware of all of how many times do I get pulled out of the present and fall into something that happened in the past. And for me, I can't go 3 minutes without having something. And the idea is, well, how quickly can I recenter? How quickly can I reorient it? Oh, yes, that thought, that feeling is not about now. It's an old thought, an old feeling. And I may want to go back and deal with it, or I may just recognize it's an old thought, an old feeling, and come back to the present moment. Sometimes I'm aware that's an old thought, an old feeling, that's an old injury that happened to me when I was a very little boy. And sometimes I even go as far, again, this is a creative act. It's all an imaginative act. Creativity, imagination, one thing. Sometimes I'll go as far as saying, okay, I imagine that little boy that I was It's all dream stuff anyway. I imagine that little boy and I say, I see you, I hear you, I love you. It's not what you do, but who you are that I love. You don't have to be the same as me and lose my, and worry about losing. You can be different than me. You can have different thoughts. You can have different ambitions. You can have different everything and not lose my love. That seems to calm that aspect of myself down. I feel a little more relaxed. It allows me to stay in the moment a little more, and you build it up like a muscle, Now, when I stay in the present, what is happening is I am now consciously the experiencer of such a magnitude of creativity, the trees, the wind, the traffic, people, what is going on in the world, what is happening around me, what is happening with me, what is happening to me. I am both participating and the experiencer of it. And in every ancient tradition, I'm a real fan of Advaita Vedanta, which is a Hindu non-dual reality. There's something similar in Buddhism. There's something similar actually in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, there is.
So when we begin to develop that, where we are experiencing life as the experiencer, then there's that old thing about, well, what do? You chop wood and you carry water. And what do you do when you're enlightened? Well, you chop wood and you carry water. But it's a whole different attitude. It's a whole different experience. You are watching your own dream stuff. You are moving with conscious awareness through your own subconscious. That is the dawning of a new paradigm for human beings, for the mass, the hulking mass of human beings. There was always a few, but for the mass of human beings, this is the dawning of an era of creative consciousness. That's what it means to me.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for being vulnerable too. I mean, that was really a winding path, even back into the young Barnet. And because I know you're speaking to a lot of people, this is life where, we're our own trail all the way back to the beginning of this life comes in, and sometimes earlier lives too, as we know. Yeah. So beautiful. I want to share, there's some comments that came in. One that was interesting, just as you're opening up creativity and imagination to somebody comparing it to the Big Bang and the expanding universe, which was really profound. And there's a question from Carol here too regarding what you're up to now. Let me hold those. I'm going to come back to those here in just a moment because I want to go to another clip. This is the Creative Mastery Masterclass, again, that Barnet created with James Twyman. Let's go to this clip. Again, a lot of real profound here in this clip. We'll come back, talk briefly about it, and then we're going to go right to these comments and questions from viewers. Here we go.
We feed most of our attention to logic and reason. We call this conventional wisdom. But we do have other kinds of intelligences as well. Body, intuitive, mathematical, masculine, feminine, social, musical, emotional, child, athletic, did I say that? Adolescent, future self, higher self, past self, parallel selves, mystical selves, subconscious, unconscious, higher conscious, non-dual conscious, mineral, vegetable, animal, stellar. Is it infinite? I don't know. I do know that these are all creative. We can access them, all of them. I also know that creativity doesn't stop at the frontier of logic and reason. You know what does? Control does. And sometimes imagination does. Imagination stops there because we've been trained by society to stop it there. But imagination itself is both a verb and a dimension that continues without end. If you enhance and awaken your imagination, you will experience a profound change in your creativity, which includes manifestation, by the way, and success. And I know some of you are very interested in that. So in this course, I'll share with you some keys I found to awaken your creative capacity and grow your imagination. Over these next modules, we'll look at how and why we've gotten ourselves inside a creative straitjacket and play with some tools and practices to bust out of it. Okay? Sound good? Let's start with an exercise. I call this one the multitudes technique. Look at any news story. Maybe it's the billionaires going into space story. That's a good one. Imagine it now from the perspective of 3 or 4 different intelligences. The adolescent perspective, the automatic no perspective, the magical child perspective. They're all you. Next, consider your project or the project of your dreams. If you don't have one, make having one your project. Experience your project from different kinds of intelligences. Higher self, confident self, accomplished self, child self. Experience it in your imagination and use your senses. Smells, for example. Smell the memory of fresh cut grass. Smell the barbecue. Now smell the pages of your new book or the shiny hair of your new fiance. In textures, in tastes. Put your tongue on it. Imagine the taste of it, the touch of it, dance it. Your subconscious mind makes no distinctions that this is real or that is real. It's all real to your subconscious. You're telling your subconscious you want more of this, and it loves to play.
I love that, Barnett. Wow, so much wisdom there, and bringing in taste it, touch it, smell it, go there, and you'll bring in more of it. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference. I mean, so much wisdom there. We're going to go to comments and a question here in just a second, but any quick remark you want to bring in on that?
Well, sometimes people come up to me and and they say, well, how could that possibly be? How could any of this be? How could manifesting be? How can all? And the best answer that I have found for myself is the dawning awareness of a wisdom that I first was exposed to at nursery school. A life is but a dream. That is not a metaphor. That is a fact. And if one is not yet prepared to embrace that fully, then I recommend that we play with it. We just play with it. Let's entertain. What if life is really a dream state? Then the notion of miracles, the notion of creating it to move in ways that you want it to move. They said that now suddenly it's not so far-fetched. Now it suddenly does not challenge our love affair with the straight line, with logic and reason. Suddenly it fits squarely inside something an experience that we are all very intimate with. What if I could be a lucid dreamer? What if life itself is a dream and I could extend my palette of tools and my develop my own growing consciousness, expand it to the extent that I begin to have more agency around the living dream as well? That is creativity. That's God stuff.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I love putting the two together, creativity and God stuff, because this is, source, the one, a Brahman, God, the divine, universe, cosmos, and then, yeah, in these spiritual terms, sit right there. I actually think they're the best description because they bring in then the supernatural, just that everything's a miracle, that everything is beautiful, all of these things.
In
Non-dual.
the East, when they said Atman, the self is Brahman, is the whole, is the God stuff, is the imaginer, is the Atman, is Brahman. The notion of supernatural, there's only supernatural when we cling to fixed ideas about the nature of reality, that it is a progression of an individual ego as a subject moving through an objective experience lodged in time. It's a dream. That goes away.
Let it be. Yeah, let it unfold into its fullness. Okay, here's some a few comments first, which is beautiful. So Jeffrey says, what an amazing effort to bring what dreams may come to the movie world. He says, I'm beginning to think the veil and the event of horizon are the same. And then he says, maybe all seeds are an explosion into the universe, similar to a Big Bang, since everything is made up of different sized black holes. So, boy, you've got some real, people going out with you to creative pastures here as you're talking, Barnet. Beautiful stuff. Then this question from Carol, she says, I have a great regard for you, Barnet. I could listen to you all day. It's great to hear you. I joined late. What's in the works for you? Any new movies? So we haven't brought this in yet. What is in the works for you right now, Barnet?
There's a few things, but the one that you'll all know of the source material is I'm doing Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I'm doing it as a feature film. And I have an interesting take on how to do it that I think is going to be lots of fun and very exciting and have lots of energy and be very attuned to a life in 2025.
So John Gray is in the middle of this with you, Barnet, or?
He's not in it with me. I have the film rights from John Gray, but he's
Right.
not. It's not something that we're doing together. It's something that it's a film I'm writing and I'll direct, and John will come to the opening.
Yeah, great. Wow. Well, fantastic. Yeah. It sounds like it could be another Barbie in some ways.
From your lips, but many of the themes, many of the cultural currents are aligned. Many of them, and the genius of Barbie is that Barbie was a very sophisticated tapping into that and unpacking of that in a fun and imaginative and energetic way that touched a lot of people without being a tutorial. And that's what I'm aiming for with Men Are From Mars. I don't want it to at any point come across as a tutorial.
Right. Yeah, I mean, our work in humanities team, you start trying to be a tutorial, where we're just trying to tell that just life. I mean, when we talk about creativity, we're empowering people. Go into your creative imagination, and yes, of course, my life is my mission, my life is my work, and share, what that's about. But we're not trying to tell anybody what to do or where to go. We're simply sharing what is true for us and where we're going, and then people can do with that what they may, huh?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's the first among equals of what is on my desk. I'm also developing a documentary. I rarely make documentaries. I've done a couple, but I'm doing a documentary called Who Do You Think You Are? And so much of what we discussed today and what humanities team is focused on is a part of the subject matter of that. I just want
Fantastic.
to express it in again ways that are less that don't feel like a tutorial.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Carl Sagan's Cosmos. Anybody remember that from way back when?
We're all
And
stardust.
so I want Who Do You Think You Are to be what Carl Sagan was to outer space. I'm doing for inner space.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, would love to, follow both of those with you. So very exciting. So
No, you
Barnett
will.
here. Yeah. So wow, I'm glad we're catching up here. Catherine says, looking forward to watching your film. So exciting. And then Heather, transcend that ego. It's possible. Unconditional love is the answer. Tap within. All the answers are there. So she's just kind of underscoring what she's hearing you say here, I think, Barnett. And I love that, we keep coming back to love as the basis, love of ourself, love of that young man growing up where there were hurts and challenges, love of who we are today, love of the world around us, that we're both the little self and the big self. It's a love story, a love story. I love it. I mean, this again, our humanities teamwork. Of course, this whole we are all one and bigger self. But that's the quantitative. The qualitative is love. It's basis. It's essence. It's love. And it's interesting. You're down in that Hollywood world. I came from the Silicon Valley world, which is actually very alpha male, in the rooms of venture capital and so on. I think I was a little bit of a fish out of water there because I'm not really very alpha male at all. Love really as the basis is kind of what has been the thing that I've felt, and held and wanted to nurture in myself. So in many ways, humanities team was a much better fit than my techno entrepreneur work there in the 90s in Silicon Valley. But and it sounds like, with your work too, I love, isn't it interesting now as we talk about creativity in movies, documentaries, new movies, creative efforts, that this is all inside of it, isn't it? I mean, it's always coming back to love, isn't it?
I've always thought that every story is a love story. No matter how vile or subhuman, every story is a love story. There is every single, the underlying motive for every action. Again, the most vile subhuman action is motivated. If you peel it back, I did this for attention. Or to feel that I had some impact in the world. I did this terrible thing because I feel like I matter, because I want to matter. And how do you feel if you want to matter? You keep asking below and below and below and below, and it always comes down to love. I want to be loved. And then below that, I want to give love. Always. No exceptions to that. So, again, when we begin to frame our lives as dreams in which the expansion of consciousness is the process of becoming conscious of moving through our own subconscious, then compassion flowers, and we begin to see clearly. We begin to have X-ray vision, superhero vision. We begin to see people's what people will do for love. That everything that their lives are about is about receiving and giving love. That nothing else is going on ever. Oftentimes, the pursuit of love, giving and receiving love, is misguided. And it's misguided because We believe that we are separate individuals and that we live in a world where we have to either earn or dominate for love. And this goes all the way back to the origin story of Judeo-Christianity, the Garden of Eden, which was a non-dual state. It was a non-dual state where every part of consciousness knew itself as every other part of consciousness, but wasn't conscious of it. There's a wonderful, I hope we have time for this. I'll try and make it short. There's this wonderful story called Indra's net in Hindu theology. And Indra's net, Indra was a prince in ancient times in India. And in this mythology, Prince Indra had this miraculous fisherman's net. And it was stretched to infinity and was centered above his palace, but stretched to infinity. And in the crossweave of every part of the net, wherever the crossweave happened, there was stitched a pearl. And if you look closely into any one pearl, you will see the reflection of every other pearl and the entirety of the net, which is the most poetic and beautiful metaphor, I think, for this understanding that we are both separate and one all at the same time. It's a paradox. And that is the basis of how that knowledge is the basis from which, when one begins to frame our lives as dream states, lucid dreaming, then what consciousness is the awareness that we are separate and connected at once. And the way consciousness wants to express itself shifts. It becomes, by its nature, compassionate because it's all me. And it's not just an idea, a concept.
Right. It's a reality. Yeah.
The reality of the creativity of love. Yes, it's all a love story.
Yes, it is. So, boy, our hour went fast. Here we are, with just a couple of minutes left. So Barnet, let me share, about almost a year and a half ago with Neil Donald Walsh and the Conversations with God Foundation, we announced a new initiative called Changing Humanity's Future. And we're saying make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. So doesn't mean it's ubiquitous, but pervasive worldwide. So it's really out there and on the spread. And the whole notion in this initiative is something very simple, which is that the remedy for all of this microcosm, macrocosm challenge. In microcosm, so many people feeling isolated, anxious, and worse, disempowered and things. And then on the macrocosm side, the drumbeat, of extreme weather, and I could go on. We know all of these things. But in this initiative, we're sharing the remedy is actually right here, right now. It's what we are talking about. We're calling it creativity here, but it's living consciously. It's really where we're in this awareness of I'm both the smaller self and the larger self, this what Einstein called delusion of separation. We clear that log from our eye. It's like, oh my gosh, we're not separate. He said we have to break free, that beautiful quote of his, we have to free ourselves from this prison, right, of this optical delusion to embrace the whole of humanity and nature. And so many of us are doing that now. You're doing that so beautifully with your work and your life, Barnet. We're sharing it's just simply a matter of living this way, and it's spreading. And microcosm, macrocosm, and we live deliciously, and boom, we get to the Malcolm Gladwell tipping point thing when enough of us are living this way, where the world starts to reflect that. Any words of inspiration around just a minute, because we're actually right at the end of the hour, but wanted to just bring that in here as we're coming to close.
The closing remark, well, remember the love.
Right, there we go. Yeah, that's it. remember the love. Yeah.
Remember the love.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, Barnet, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. Barnet is just wow. What a inspiration. I wish I lived closer by there. The way you live your life, you can just see the devotion, the vision, the clarity, the progression. I mean, you can just see all these things, and no wonder you've had such great success. And these movies out ahead of you, wow, look forward to watching these things come to market. I'm sure they're going to be extraordinary. So thank you so much. Also, I want to thank my team. We'll pull the camera back. You'll see we got a little studio here. That's me on the couch. That's Jim Gray over there. Jim, thank you. A seamless program today, as far as I can tell. Everything worked. You have to have a lot of courage, to be doing a live program out on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, and a green room, all of these things, and then playing programs. So thanks for navigating this through seamlessly here today, Jim. Also, Nanette Kennedy, Garth Catterall, Dee Meyer, Andy Guski, Karen Watson. So got a lot of partners and colleagues. Won't be able to name them all, but thank you guys for helping to make this thing possible and marketing it, making people aware of it out in the world. And viewers, thanks for being with us. As we always share, we're not here just to be yapping back and forth, as beautiful and fun as it is. We're actually here to engage. We're spreading the message here, inviting you to it. Man, such a beautiful way to live. Where in this case, where we're just firing up our super creativity, just a whole nother way of looking at life. Such a beautiful way. So thanks again, Barnet. Thank you, viewers. And together, let's stretch into it, live consciously, and deepen our own journey into conscious living, which is love. Being even a more loving presence in all the ways that we do that. So, and together, we're actually focusing on ourselves, but we change the world actually by focusing on ourselves is kind of how it works. So let's do it together. Thanks, everybody. And next week, I'm going to have Nassim Harriman with me. He's the International Space Federation. He's now based over in Europe. He's got this whole unified field research that he's bringing to the world now. Many of you probably are following that research. He'll be with us live next week, so be sure to join us. Looking forward to that. And have a great rest of week, everybody, and looking forward to being back with you a week from now. Take care. Love and peace and blessings.
Thank you.